Other YouTubers right now are talking about how the Switch is done and dusted, how we're not going to get any more games for it, how it's completely over, and how we're not going to get any more games for 2024. That is completely, objectively wrong. I managed to pick out 10 games that I'm looking forward to. And I realized while I was scrolling past the list, disqualifying titles that I wasn't sure were going to come out this year, or like Silk Song, and, titles that haven't, I was looking through the list and I realized that, like, wow, all of these games that I'm excited for are coming out in the first half of 2024. The year is totally stacked for Nintendo Switch, and today I wanted to take a little bit of time to look at what's coming out for the console, what we can expect to see, and just what there is to look forward to. And there is quite a lot of good stuff on the horizon. So sit back and enjoy my top 10 games of the first half of Nintendo Switch's 2024. Although this game hasn't been technically announced yet, I do think it is clear that it is coming this year. Considering the success of Metroid Prime Remastered, it would be absurd to not give the similar treatment to Metroid Prime 2 and give this game the much needed revival it deserves. This game is really interesting, often overlooked, and is arguably probably the hardest Metroid game. Metroid Prime 2 is a really interesting title that not a lot of people remember or talk about. So I think a re-release would really do a lot to help people understand this game's virtues. And there are a lot of them. I would argue Metroid Prime 1 is clearly, blatantly the better game, but there definitely are a lot of positive aspects to Metroid Prime 2, including a more well-rounded story, an interesting world. You have, great boss fights, great boss fights, probably the best in the series. And you just have this. It's just a monumental game in general. Like, it's nowhere near the same level of caliber as Metroid Prime 1 in a lot of ways. A lot of people would say this is the weakest of the trilogy, but I do think the game really is a unique title that really does deserve a lot of props. I would like to see this re-release, and I would like to see more people talk about it. This is an often overlooked title that I cannot wait to play through again. It's been adorable seeing gaming YouTubers try and write off Splatoon as a franchise. So many people have gaslit themselves into thinking this game is a flop or isn't all that relevant, but in reality, it's been a major success story and is dominating the online shooter scene on Nintendo consoles. And I think 10, 20 years from now is going to be considered one of Nintendo's tentpole IPs. To see how much the Splatoon developers have innovated over the past couple of years has been insane. We went from like the incredibly good campaign to Splatoon 2 to this really interesting, unique looking roguelike section in Splatoon 3. Now, obviously, we don't know everything about what Side Order is going to be like. Is it going to have a plot? Like, is it going to be like, how is it going to work exactly? It seems kind of vague. But again, I found myself like really impressed with how the Octopath expansion was handled in Splatoon 2. I've long said that Splatoon 3 is a unique entry in the Nintendo Switch lineup because it's constantly updating, it's constantly adding new things. Like, so many people gave this game poor reviews when it first came out without really understanding that, like, they're adding new enemies, they're adding new stages, they're adding new weapons, and that does radically change the game. Like, I would say fans have put hundreds, if not thousands of hours into this game already because it's just that good. And seeing them add a brand new mode into Splatoon 3 is really exciting indeed. I cannot wait to see what they do with this. One of the more interesting looking games coming out in the first half of 2024 is Princess Peach Showtime, a game featuring Princess Peach of all characters, and it has its own unique premise. It has its own antagonist. It has unique powers for Peach. It has an interest. It has a unique plot. Like, it plays differently than a Mario game. It doesn't feel like a lazy rehash of it. In a lot of ways, this feels like the true Princess Peach game we've been waiting for a long time. Super Princess Peach, I think, was one of those games that Nintendo put out, as an experimental title, and a lot of people criticized it for like not making Peach an interesting character, feeling too much like a Mario game, not really innovating in any way, shape, or form. Like, the game didn't bomb exactly, to my knowledge, but it's not exactly the kind of thing that had people clamoring for a sequel. Right? It was an interesting novelty item, but it's not something that people really look back fondly on and remember. This game, right from the get go, looks way more interesting. And it remains to be seen just what this game has in store for us. Like, at this stage, I'm kind of concerned about the length and the difficulty and the gameplay. Like, who knows? Considering like the angle they're going for, I'm concerned they're designing this game for little girls in mind and not like longtime Mario fans. But like, we'll have to see when this game actually comes out. But when it comes to the visual presentation, when it comes to the transformations, when it comes to like the stuff we've seen so far, it looks really, really interesting. It looks really unique. I've never really seen anything like it. It seems to be taking a lot of cues from a lot of different genres. Like, it could be a really interesting, well-rounded title. And at the very least, it'll be nice seeing Princess Peach take the spotlight in a game that actually looks like a proper big budget title. Again, we'll have to see if this game is good or not. I'm still kind of iffy on it in a lot of ways, but I do expect it to be good at this stage. I'm liking everything I see so far, and I cannot wait to see more. I wasn't crazy about Sonic Mania. I was actually one of the more vocal critics about that game. But seeing the team come back and make a new IP with a new character with a new premise that kind doesn't resemble Sonic at all, other than maybe the fact that like she goes fast, right? Like, I really like that. This feels kind of like a 90s platformer in a lot of ways, a 90s 3D platformer in a lot of ways, with a lot of cool, vibrant colors, some cool, interesting mechanics. Like, it really feels very video gamey, which is something we don't see a lot of lately. And the more I see this game, and the more I see the trailers for it, I am somewhat optimistic about it. I do really, really enjoy the fact that they're trying to do something a little bit different, that they're actually trying to innovate on this genre, that they're actually putting out something new. And we don't get enough of that these days. And recently, it feels like there's a big return to form when it comes to this kind of thing. I felt over the past couple of years that indie games have been getting stagnant on Switch, that there aren't a lot of good, innovative ones. And this one sticks out as being something that, at the very least, looks playable. It looks interesting. It looks unique. And I'm excited to see if they manage to deliver on their promises of a fast, engaging 3D platformer. When Luigi's Mansion 2 first came out on the 3DS, it was really unfairly lambasted by Nintendo YouTubers nostalgic for the original Luigi's Mansion. People like Arlo, people like the BitBlock, people like Nitro Rad, they all came out and tried to say the game was too cartoony, that it wasn't very good, that like the mission structure ruined the entire game, and it was nothing but nostalgia blinded fanboyism of the original release, because this game is objectively way better than the original. It has better combat, better boss fights, better environments, better mechanics in general. I was shocked by what this game managed to add into Luigi's Mansion, because I always felt that the original game was very limited in its mechanics, but this one really went above and beyond, making a playable cartoon. Next Level Games is, I think, the best studio when it comes to making the Mario universe come to life. Right? They have like former Pixar creators working there, and it really shows in the animations and the designs and the personality. And Luigi's Mansion 2, I think, was kind of the beginning of that. Right? Punch Out Wii was already fantastic, but a lot of people wrote that off as just some random Wii reboot. But this was like a sequel to a beloved standalone game on the GameCube, right? And I'm sure that there are a lot of people like me who viewed this game through an unbiased lens and kind of judged it on its own merits and realized how great it was, how wonderful it is. And now that it's getting re-released post the release of 3 from the same studio, this game is going to get rediscovered. This game is going to be extremely popular. This game is going to have we're going to bring back online play. That is going to be a very big thing for this specific game. I almost left another Code R off the list because I think it's coming out like 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be charged for it like next week. I bought the game digitally, so it feels way too soon to be talking about this in like an upcoming games video. But I looked at the list and I decided that like yeah, another Code R is one of those games that I'm really looking forward to because this was one of those games that I never picked up on the DS. I remember seeing this in Nintendo Power as a kid. I remember thinking Ashley was adorable. I was like very young. I remember like being interested in the concept, but it's like it's one of those things where you're just like I don't know if I'm going to like the game or not. Like, I wanted to experiment. I wanted to go out of my comfort zone. I wanted to play this game with this cute girl, right? I wanted to, but, like, is the game good or not? And that was like a real question that weighed on my mind. And with, like, the fact that the sequel never came out in North America, it was never a game that I seriously considered picking up even as I got older. But now, now that we're getting a remake of both the original and the sequel, this is a really exciting thing because first of all, this kind of proves that dead Nintendo subsidiaries, companies like Sing, can come back and put out reboots or remakes of classic gaming IPs. So with this coming back, that opens up the door for like Hotel Dusk and everything else they worked on, and the fact that this is coming out at all is kind of impressive. But like when you look at this, when you compare it to like what the DS game looks like, it does look like a radical improvement. And I've seen people like bend over backwards, like, attacking this game, like, why isn't her belly button showing? Like, where are the touchscreen puzzles? Where are the gimmicks? But like, I think, assuming this is the same creators are working on this, I'm very optimistic this is going to be a very solid little adventure game. And I like seeing new Nintendo characters take the spotlight. I like seeing, people try something a little bit different with characters that aren't from established IPs and doing something. Like I like these kind of things. And recently it seems like we're not getting enough of that. Again, I've talked about this a lot over the past couple of years, but I feel like Nintendo and especially other companies are playing it very, very safe when it comes to the games they release and the games they make. Like, again, that's been a problem for a long time. It feels like there haven't been a lot of really cool, innovative new things or like remakes of obscure gaming franchises like this. And seeing this, seeing this like seeing this get remade is really, really exciting. I really, really want to see what the game is like. I want to see if I enjoy it. I want to see if I become a fan, and I really want to see if this game really lives up to the hype, if it really lives up to like my expectations of it. Right? It's one of those games that I never got to play growing up, and getting to play it now is a really exciting thing for me. I wasn't thrilled about Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door getting remade because I felt like the original should be remade first. Like that's what I would have done. I would have given that a complete overhaul and given it new content, like maybe a hard mode, give it like all sorts of crazy things, like maybe make it a collection. Like it doesn't make sense for me. It didn't make sense to me to skip the original and go straight to the Thousand Year Door, especially since it seems like this is a pretty straight remake with remaster with like a new translation. Like we haven't seen anything new yet, right? Like I was very iffy on this game when they first showed it off, But like the more I've seen the trailers, the more I've watched them, the more I've thought about it. After playing Super Mario RPG in particular, I've actually flipped on it, and I do think I am looking forward to this game because I do expect there to be minor gameplay balance changes. I do expect there to be adjustments. I do expect there to be new content, right? I was shocked. Super Mario RPG doesn't add a ton of new content. Like, it's basically just a handful of bonus bosses, but the bonus bosses were really, really, really good. I was really surprised with how much I had to work to beat those guys, right? Like, and I have been very critical of Super Mario RPG in the past. So, like playing the remake and actually liking it was something that I was not expecting at all. So, I think that remake did a really good job, like fine tuning a game that I didn't even like initially and making it like something I enjoyed. So with the Thousand Year Door, which I used to like a lot more than I do now, I'm hoping that like a fresh coat of paint will really help me fall in love with this game again and really help me like feel invested and get involved in it. Like one of my big things with this game every time I play it is like the backtracking, right? What if they get rid of the backtracking? What if they fix the pacing problems? What if they do a rewrite and just kind of fix all of these issues and just kind of deliver a more condensed experience while like expanding on it near the end, while like fixing whatever problems the game does. Like it's possible this could be a phenomenal release. It's possible. We don't know yet, but I'm optimistic enough to put it on the list. Yeast 10 came out last year in Japan, but I expect it'll be localized this year. I don't know how long these games take to get localized. I don't think very long, about a year. They're relatively niche, but I think this kind of thing is becoming more and more common. I do think we can expect a release in the West, especially on Switch, where I think the Yeast franchise is getting a dedicated fan base. I've been recommending this IP to people. It's one of my favorite IPs that I've discovered in the Switch era, right? I absolutely love Yeast. And unfortunately, Yeast 9 was a disappointment, and I don't know what to expect from Yeast 10. But like going by what I've seen, it looks phenomenal, right? Like I don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that like Adol is younger and like I think it has like two characters instead of like the typical, party system that they've been having in recent games. So like I don't know exactly what's going on with these 10. I haven't been looking into it very much. I haven't even finished Yeast 9 because I was so disappointed with it. So like maybe I'll go back and finish Yeast 9 before this comes out. But like when I look at Yeast 10, like when I think about it, like I'm kind of surprised at how excited I am for it, right? Like this is a game that like nobody is talking about going into 2024, but I hope it becomes successful and I hope people talk about it. Like I am very, very, very eagerly anticipating this one. Every time I look at this, I get more and more excited. This looks like the best good feel game in years since Wario Land Shake It. And it's not being published by Nintendo. It's not getting a simultaneous release in the West. What were they thinking? This is such a huge disappointment for me because the instant I saw this game, I was just blown away by it. Like, this looks so cool. It looks like a 3D action platformer, and I'm all about that stuff, right? It's a new IP from a studio I really deeply respect and love, right? The company behind one of my favorite Wii games, Wario Land Shake It. A company known for great animation and great boss fights and just great gameplay in general. Like this looks like something unique and fresh from them. Like for too long they've been making like all these lazy Nintendo properties, right? They put out Crafted World, which didn't really need to exist. You know, like they've been long overdue to start producing their own IPs. And this this looks like it could be it. This looks like this could be their big break. This looks like the kind of wacky, nonsensical thing that I positively love. Just look at this footage. Just look at all these crazy things. Like, it just looks so good. and nobody's talking about this game, unfortunately. Like my understanding is the game hasn't done well in Japan. It's bombed. I don't know how true that is. It's really difficult to judge these things sometimes. But like when I look at this, like, wow, it looks so cool, right? Like it looks so amazing. And I desperately want to like import this one. I don't know how big of a deal it's gonna be. If it straight up does not get like a an English version, I will import it. I'm that enthusiastic about it. But like as it stands now, I fully expect it to come out eventually. But man, I hope this comes out, and I hope it does well. All right, and for my most anticipated game of 2024, it's Unicorn Overlord. I remember hearing about how 13 Sentinels was going to take several years to get a follow-up game for Vanillaware, and I remember being like kind of put off by that. Like, wow, fans are going to have to wait that long. And it's shocking to me, considering how I became a fan of Vanillaware in 2022 when I played the Switch port of 13 Sentinels and then played Grim Grimoire in 2023, and then played this. Like, I have this to look forward to. Like, I guess it's a good time to get into the games if you're a Nintendo fan. Um, but yeah, like the instant I saw this, like I just thought that, like, wow, this looks like this could be a masterpiece. This looks like this might be one of the best strategy RPGs on Switch, right? Like this is everything I like with like the cool anime aesthetic, with like the dozens of characters, with like the cool strategy, the complex storytelling. Like if this is anything like 13 Sentinels, this might have one of the best plots of the year. And I love Fire Emblem. You know, I love triangle strategy. But it is time to like have some real competition, right? Like we need to have some variety when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I think Fire Emblem has been dominant in its niche too long. So it'll be interesting to see like a real competitor come up and try to put out something like it. Like I expect this game is going to be amazing.